Alston, JD Williams. He
Hey, Blue, Blue,
reclassified it.
Blue, we're live.
What? Oh, I don't even see it. That's why I
Yeah,
asked you.
just popped up. It's on my Twitter. Hey, everybody,
Oh,
welcome in to another edition of the GASOcast. My bad, Blue.
yeah.
But yeah, here we are, 1 month into the seasons. What have we learned? What are the storylines we're tracking? The top performers that we're evaluating, and let's get right into it with some housekeeping. G1 series coming out. We've got a ton of teams signed up. We're getting everything finished up and getting things situated for that. We're looking very forward to getting that started. Once the high school season comes to an end, as always, the GASO Fast Break drops every Friday. If you've been at playing at a tournament or your team's been involved in some games that we've been at, go subscribe. We evaluate and write up a ton of analysis on prospects from all over the state going back to the start of the season. So there's a chance we may have talked about you in the newsletter. So go ahead and subscribe to that. And as always, follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter, and tag us in game results and highlights and all the stuff so we can push that content out there along with the channels that we have access to. All right. So let's get right into it. A month into the season, what's the biggest storyline? What's going on with some of the things that you're paying attention to? Tim, I'm going to go ahead and start it with you.
26-5A, I've had a chance to see, the majority of that district when I'm looking at Wagner, when I look at New Braunfels, who I'll be able to see, this evening, go head to head. And you have Burning Champion, and you have a solid Alamo Heights group. Piper is on the surge up. Uh, and then I saw Veterans Memorial, a couple of times. It's a really tough district. And so, we've said this before in the past, but it proves to be true. More importantly, this year, uh, there's going to be two pretty good teams that are playoff worthy type teams not get in.
Yeah,
So every night, in District 26-5A is going to be really, really interesting to see, who's able to come out with the win, regardless on the road or even, even at home, because a lot of these teams, are road tested. They can go on the road and win games just based on how they're built. So it won't surprise me if certain teams get in. I'm not going to lay out, my predictions per se, but it's going to be interesting to see a couple of pretty good groups, potentially even some former playoff participants not get in this year.
for sure. And I mean, of those teams, San Antonio Vets with some pretty very interesting results over the weekend that kind of turned a few heads around the state, especially. Blue, what's that storyline that you're tracking a month into the season for you?
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page here because we're looking at 6A and there's so much. There's some moving around. It seems like some teams are starting to win, they lose, they get on a streak. They have to, but they're facing really tough opponents when you're looking at the top of the food chain there. And I think with Little Elm winning at the Spring Creek in Mansfield, they came in and they beat San Antonio Brennan. They really and it was convincing.
Yeah.
And so I think you have those types of storylines that are happening in 6A, even with the Seven Lakes. I mean, they're still winning without Isaiah Santos. Isaiah Santos, I believe, is in Paraguay,
Brazil. Yeah.
Brazil or Paraguay. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a college coach said Paraguay, so yeah, that's their fault. Anyway, so yeah, but they're winning without him, and so I think you have a lot of these little storylines that are happening. It's still, we're a month into the season, but there's a lot of teams that are having to go through a lot of early challenges and games as they're playing 4 to 5 in a weekend, so that takes a toll. And then things I think will start settling in a little bit as we get into the Christmas season and then also into district play. That's kind of starting here already.
Yeah, and we've already got districts that have played. Tonight will be their second game potentially, where we're getting started. But yeah, just backing off of Blue's comments. I mean, 6A, we really didn't expect it to be as wide open as it is because there were teams that kind of looked like they'd established themselves with their performances in the summer, with the talent they have on paper. And their early like fall performances that looked like to be in a tier of their own, and we're finding out that it's a lot more even than we think. That the Little Elm result that you referenced, that a lot of these teams, it's a game of matchups, and if you don't match up particularly well, then somebody can get you on a given night, as what happened in Mansfield. But yeah, there's a lot going on. I got to saw another top 10 matchup with Cy Falls and Westlake at the Anderson Classic that I'll get into a little bit later. But 6A being as wide open, and not being the case with 5A and 4A, I think is going to be something that we're going to revisit as a talking point as the season draws on. All right. So moving on to our next topic, who was the show this weekend? What team or player was the guy? What matchup did you see that we're just kind of like, wow, this is the most important evaluation that I've gotten this weekend? Let's start with you, Tim.
Two guards really showed well for me. They showed their ability to really kind of score the ball in multiple phases of the game. And most importantly, for one, at some critical times, being he was getting the bulk of the attention. I'll start with Maurice Eddy. Anytime you shoot the ball, really over 50 or 60% from three, it's pretty efficient, depending on your shot attempts and where and how they're coming. But Maurice Eddy went 7 for 7 at one point in time in the game where they saw, in the first round of their tournament game. And so throughout the course of the tournament, he proved to be one of those guys that can continuously, make shots at some very critical times. They were pressed a little bit with a pretty good Friendswood team that they played against, but it was him and a couple of other seniors that they have to really kind of step up and made plays. But the other one I want to say that really, really kind of stood out was Amari Getter. I mean, when you look at a kid and the type of event that he had they won the tournament, he probably would have been the tournament MVP, hands down. But the fact that they got beat, he had some remarkable performances. And it wasn't just really about the numbers. It was about the teams that they played against, and knowing that he was getting the extra attention. He still was able to kind of settle things down, get their team into offense, and do what they kind of do. He never really felt like he was sped up or anything like that. But against Veterans Memorial, he had 33 at the end of three. And Veterans Memorial has some pretty solid defenders. They're normally really well coached on the defensive side of the ball. So it was really surprising for me to kind of see him get into his bag the way that he did. But he really kind of had his way in that particular matchup in a game that I felt like, was a playoff type atmosphere type game. It was physical. The officials did a really good job allowing him to play, but he stood out.
Yeah, Blue, who was that guy for you? Who was the show?
Yeah, I mean, Reese Alston is just so consistent, right? Most outstanding player of the Mustang Classic, goes for 31, I believe, in the championship game. I mean, he's just when you get to the court, I think that we just know what we're going to see from him. There's nothing going to be anything that's going to wow us. Probably more for me is than the consistency of everything that he does out there, being the true lead guard, the scorer, the distributor, the defender, all the score from all three levels. I mean, it is something that where if you haven't already seen it as a fan or as somebody that loves the game of basketball, you really need to go and take the time to sit in the bleachers to see him play. And I mean, he has, I think collectively though, I mean, Second Baptist is playing at a very high level. And am I right by saying that I think maybe they've only lost one game all year, and that would have been in Chicago. And so they have really just put together a huge resume early on. And Reese Alston is that leader. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's been really good to start the year for them. I'm going to go with the game I referenced earlier with Austin Westlake and Bo Ogden against Cy Falls and Daniel Patton. 9 p.m. tip-off Friday night, but it was well worth staying up late for. And, Bo Ogden, it's becoming an every week thing where this kid is just putting up crazy numbers, putting the team on his back. Went for 39. Hit a shot with 10 seconds left or so to put his team up by 3. Daniel Patton responds, hits a 3 at the buzzer to send this thing to overtime. But Bo is just, I mean, the newborn, 6-month-old babies in the crowd know that he's getting the ball, and there's nothing that you can do about it because he's just that dialed in. He just getting to his spots and just being super efficient, super physical, finishing at the rim, but his pull up jumper has just been on point this year. And Daniel Patton, my favorite thing about this game is when you're a new kid to the state. Him moving in from Tennessee and landing at Cy Falls. You find out a lot about this kid. A lot of these Texas players, we know their character. We know how they compete. We see that. And with this being a new transfer to the state with Patton, we got to see that vocal leadership with him deciding, Bo Ogden may have 4 stars and be a Texas commit, but I'm going to go at him, and I'm going to try to compete with him defensively and offensively. And he was really impressive in his ability to do that. So props to both these dudes for standout games. And Westlake ended up winning the tournament. Cy Falls obviously goes to the third place game, wins the third place game. But 2 programs that are on the rise and a really good game that if you got a chance to see the film of, I can highly, highly recommend checking that out. So, all right. Next topic, the energy performance. Who gave you that jolt? Which player kind of upped the intensity for you as an evaluator this weekend? Tim, who was that guy for you?
Donovan Bolden, 2026 kid, is really kind of on the rise for San Antonio Warren, flying all around the gym. They're playing against Dallas South Oak Cliff, and he's making every play, from rim protecting to being out in front of their pressure looks, to getting deflections, to causing, disrupting shots, but then coming down and running the floor and finishing on lob attempts and different things of that nature. So just his energy alone put them up by as much as maybe 8 or 10. They had some other teammates, that played really well in that particular game, but he was the one that I really felt like, kind of set the tone, making it difficult for South Oak Cliff to get anything done on the interior. And by him setting the tone, it really kind of allowed his other teammates to kind of really relax. So he really had his imprints on the entire game.
Yeah, Blue, who is that guy for you?
JD Williams, you might have heard me on the hot mic mention him at the very beginning. But no, JD Williams of Empowering Others, he demands the ball. The one thing that I really liked about him and the flow of the game, of which I was watching them watching Empowering Others play Houston St. John's at the Mustang Classic, is that they had to break the press of St. John's, who was trying to get back into the game and cut it to single digits. You give that ball to JD Williams, he gets into the middle of the floor and he starts distributing. He does a great job of passing the ball up. If you're a shooter, which they have a couple, you want to be on high alert, because his job is he gets that ball, he takes 1 or 2 dribbles, he's looking up the court, and boom, and hitting the strike to his shooters, or he's just going to take you off the dribble and make you pay if you kind of leave anything open in that middle that he can get to there with good body control and finishing. Really loved his high energy on both ends of the ball, but they were up in the teens a lot of the game in the second half, and he kept it that way because of his motor, of his ability to get the ball up and take St. John's out of their press.
Yeah, and for me to finish the category, let's go with Luke Susko, Claremont Marcus. I mean, did it all. Was a Booby Miles performance, because he was, finishing at the rim, doing everything you can. He probably drove the bus home. Just a blue collar dude with a high skill level, splitting double teams, going straight into a pull up 3, knocking down shots in the mid range with nice turnaround game, distributing, rebounding, ton of putbacks. Went for 45. I mean, was just that good, that undeniable. And shout out to Will Sliker for Lake Travis, who also had 37 in the game, hit a ton of big shots. Really starting to build his own stock in that 2027 class in Central Texas. But yeah, this was a game that brought the energy later in the day, Thursday. All right, moving on to a team topic, a team that proved themselves. Who picked up the biggest win that you got to see this weekend? Tim, who was that team for you?
Antonian, we talked about Amari Guetta, with him being the fuel of the engine, if you will. But Antonian got 2 really good ones. They were able to knock off Converse Judson in the quarterfinals of one in the South Sand tournament. But then piggybacked on that win, and then the following day knocked off San Antonio Veterans Memorial. And so Veterans Memorial, being who they are and kind of how they're made up, had a big win for themselves early in the tournament. But for Antonian to really kind of beat both of those teams in different fashions. The Judson game was a really, really physical game. Amadi Guetta in that one was really special, but then they also had 2028 Eden Onway, who really kind of stepped up big for them in certain ways, for them to be able to kind of overcome that. It was a kind of back and forth type game, but Amadi Guetta kind of set the tone for them to kind of come away with that win. And then I already mentioned about the 33-point performance at the end of 3 against Veterans Memorial, but for them to be able to pull that one out in the fashion that they did was very surprising for me.
Yeah, Blue, and for yours, I mean, we referenced this game already, but you were watching it live. Tell us about the
Yeah,
Brendan Little Elm.
and from the get go, it was Little Elm, and they had a they're out there to win championships, and I guess when you look at ranking wise, Coach Barnett out there kind of gave us a little shot, going, hey. Here's I was asking him a couple questions, and he said, yeah, y'all dropped us quite a bit. Yeah, they dropped from 5 to 13, and they had lost, I believe, to DeSoto. Is that correct,
Mm-hmm.
Lyndon? And we will look at head-to-head matchups, maybe on like the college football playoffs. But anyway, that plays into some of the rankings here,
Mm-hmm.
and that just means that he's paying attention. We're having a little fun back and forth. But you look at this team, and you look at Kingston, Candler, and Josh Weems. I mean, that they signed with SFA, DBU. Weems with DBU, and so they each had 20 points. Candler was the show in the first half with 17 points. Josh Weems comes back in the second half, gets 15 of his own, and they just added pressure completely on that San Antonio Brennan team. Does it show a little bit of some holes in the ship for Brennan? I don't think so, but it just shows you how good Little Elm is and how they can raise their game. I mean, and then they also have Ian Berry and Eli Fegans that can go out there and do scoring also. And so it was just a battle that was won in the first half, and Little Elm just kept that pressure on. They had Isaiah Ward in foul trouble all game, so he sat majority of the first half and then a good chunk of the second. And so you know what, Little Elm just really turned it up, I think, a couple notches to win such a prestigious tournament such as the Spring Creek there in Mansfield.
Yeah, loud performance across the state from those two lead guards, especially. I'll go with Austin Bowie in their own tournament, knocking off St. Mike's to win the entire thing Saturday afternoon. Josh Baskin, 2027, was very impressive. I mean, I don't think he missed from the mid range, and every time, Bowie was up 17 at halftime, and here comes the St. Michael's is going to make a push, and they're going to up their intensity and press everything, and did a great job, hold themselves back into the game, took the lead at some point in the fourth quarter. But every time Bowie needed a calming presence, they needed somebody to slow things down, make a smart cut, get them a bucket to keep pace. It was Josh Baskin stepping up, and he was, one of my favorite evals from the entire weekend that I was down in Central Texas. And, end up winning. Luke Ashby at the buzzer on a rebound, wins it at the buzzer. But, Lamine Jabi, Derek Osabase, like they got kids that stepped up throughout the weekend. And, yeah, I mean, Bowie is going to surprise a lot of people with how deep this team is, because they shot the ball extremely well in the first half, and then they gritted it out when things got tight late on against a really talented St. Michael's team. All right, moving on to our next gen varsity report, as always, talking 28s and 29s who caught our eyes in our evaluations this weekend. Tim, let's start with this kid. We love this kid out of Houston Heights. Who's that for you?
EJ Beard, he is really, really shaping out to what we all felt like, he could be, after seeing him a little bit during this summertime with this Houston Defenders team, and then kind of watching them now play with this group in the high school level with Houston Heights. Really, really good size. I mean, he's well put together, and, that helps him, from doing what he likes to do, is get downhill and be very physical with defenders, blowing by them, finishing at the rim, finishing through contact. He had a game high of like 26 or 28 in the game that I saw, but he was also very efficient. Just where he wanted to get to, he was getting to without any difficulty. And then being able to kind of hit the mid-range, as you alluded to earlier, about kids being able to do, multiple things in multiple phases. But he's definitely a three-level scorer and a really, really high-rising prospect. I'll just say that much. Really, really well put together young man.
Yeah.
And then the other is the big fella out of McKinney Boyd, Big Benji Bure. I mean, he is talented. Um, Assumes all roles. Some people just feel like, bigs play inside, but, he has the ability to be able to stretch the floor with his shooting ability from three, but then also being able to put it on the floor and creating for himself or others. I saw him 4 or 5 different times rebound the ball and push the ball down the floor in transition and either make the right read or finish all the way at the rim. So, this is a capable kid that is going to be on more recruiting boards here pretty soon, as they lay eyes on him because he's very, very talented.
Yeah, two 28s that definitely are going to be in consideration towards the top of our rankings when we get around to those in January, February. Blue, who's a next gen kid that caught your eye this weekend?
Yeah, Jonathan Rodriguez from Mansfield Lake Ridge. I mean, he's a 5'11" shooter, and I think that what was great about his game is that he knew exactly what his job was, and that was to find open space, get beyond the arc, and his teammates were looking for him. They would pass the ball up to him. If it wasn't there, he'd dribble out, or he'd get the ball out of his hands to a cutter, or just get the ball back to the point guard to set up any type of motion or any kind of just give and go type action. But I was really impressed. I mean, he was hitting the mark when he was open. He would take that shot. It looked like it was going to go in every time, and most times it did. I mean, he was an all tournament player, and rightfully so, just because he was able just to get the ball in the right positions and the right spots and not force anything.
Yeah, and I got 2 for my next gen report. First one, Landon Collins, because the trajectory that he's on is very, very high upside. I mean, he's a legit 6'10" who impacts all shots in his airspace. He's still developing on the basketball side of things, but on the athleticism side, with that length and the timing and the instincts that he has around the rim, to be somebody who can be not only a lob threat and a rim protector, but also somebody who is on the glass and rebounding on both ends of the floor. I mean, it just bodes very well. As long as the development keeps up with his potential, this could be a top 10 kid in the class when all is said and done. And he's not that right now, just from a skill aspect, but there's a very high chance that he ends up there if his progression continues at the rate that we've seen so far. And obviously, another kid. It's always hard, and it's a credit to Coach Duffield at Lake Highlands to get a standout from Lake Highlands, because they play so deep. They play so many dudes. There's so many mouths to feed, especially with the guards. But Jamion Broome was that dude for me this weekend who shot the ball extremely well. I think he shot above 50% from three, was a standout in the game that I watched. They've got Osa Winwinsey and Miller Mask on the inside, and just kind of go 4 out, and then whoever's got the hot hand ends up being a dude that will get a little bit of extra pop, and that dude was Jamion for me this weekend. So shout out to all of those next gen dudes making an impact at the next level. All right, let's finish it up. Scoreboard, watch, and performance gossip. What were the things that you saw, maybe you weren't at, but the things you saw on social media that you had people in your circle talking to you about as far as loud results? Tim, who was the kid that you got tagged in or texts about his performances this weekend?
Seeing him live, Madden Hill. I mean, he is the real deal. We've talked about it as a staff, and it's fun to not only just talk about it as a staff, but then, lay eyes on him and kind of see how he's progressing coming off of a strong summer. But he is as efficient as it comes. I mean, he knows what he's trying to do and what he needs to do at every particular time. He's not a kid that's ever sped up or rushed. It was a particular game, I think it was against Flower Mound, where he had 7 or 10 from three, but he hit 6 of them in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So getting to it right out of the gate. Finished with like 34 in that particular game. And so, he is really, really one to kind of lay eyes on. And he's another one that, we'll talk about here in the next few weeks, as we get closer to our ranking that 28 class, because he's definitely going to be amongst the top just with what his abilities are, just with him being able to not only create for himself, but others, and his willingness too. Obviously, when you're playing with the JO3 group that he plays with, and then you come back and playing with his high school team, obviously there's, a little bit of a talent disparity, if you will, but at the same time, he's playing the game the right way. And that's the thing that I really kind of admire about him the most. He's not really kind of looking at, okay, I'm the one who should be taking all of these shots and kind of just have
Right.
everybody else kind of standing there and watching. No, he's delivering it too. So, I mean, for him to kind of play it and do it the right way, he's definitely on the rise for me.
Yeah. Blue, another Houston area kid that you like this week, and who was that?
Yeah, Jakendrick Clevenger from Xavier Academy out of Houston finishes with 15 points, 12 assists, 4 rebounds versus Houston Second Baptist, and that whenever you can put those types of numbers up against, as we talked about earlier, the Taylor Lane coach team of Second Baptist, you're really doing something good. And even Taylor told me, he said that Jakendrick really gave them a lot of trouble as they were have to watch him off the high ball screen. They were trying to slow him down, but they couldn't, because if he wasn't scoring, like I said, he was distributing the ball with 12 assists. So he had himself a really big weekend, and that's high praise when a coach like Taylor Lane can stand there and say, "Hey, this kid was really good this weekend."
Yeah, I'll jump in here with Beaumont United against Westbrook. We had a feeling this game would be, something that you'd have to pay attention to both times it's played in district, and probably going to get it played again in the playoffs at some point. But we get an early edition of it in the championship game of the tournament, where Beaumont United, with Peyton Jones, with EJ Moore, stepping up with big moments. And they take round one, is what we'll say, because there's going to be like this. This definitely doesn't decide who's going to win a state championship, but it is a warning shot to everybody that, hey, Beaumont United, it's not going to be easy for Westbrook to repeat in Region 3 in 5A, that these two teams are probably going to be set to duel yet again in the playoffs. But Tim, who's another guy for you who was a standout this weekend?
Damon Miles, when we were talking about it as a staff, a couple of weeks ago, Blue in particular was like, hey, we need to make sure, we're in this area at this particular time. So, that's the ability that, we have as a staff to make sure, we're intentional in our coverage. So being able to get back to Houston and then back to San Antonio was really, really good. So when you start to look at from a level of play, Damon Miles is up there. I mean, even just with talking with his coaches and then talking with some people from his inner circle, with the mid to high majors the looks that he's getting, it's justified. His ability with his size and his ability to play both guard positions, how he sees the floor, both on the ball and off the ball, getting to his spots, being able to raise up, despite the extra attention he gets defensively, still being able to score, in multiple ways. But then his court vision is underrated, in my opinion, with his ability to be able to pass the ball. He saw guys, in creases that I was like, wow, okay, he really saw that at the timing that he needed to and put it on the point, where it needed to be for his teammates to finish. And he also, like we talked about with the other young man, showing confidence in his teammates. He does that with this particular group because they also have some other 28s that are on that particular group that actually shoot the ball really, really well. And he's looking to find them. He's not just trying to just score the ball himself with his ability, although he could. He's really trying to do the things the right way as well. So Damon Miles is another one that really kind of stood out.
Yeah, Blue, this is a kid who we always have high praise for anytime we watch him. Who was that for you at the Katy Classic?
Katie Jordan's Marwan Fadika. He finished with a triple-double, 31 points, 12 assists, and 11 rebounds in a Katy ISD Classic. He was named MVP. He averaged over 20 points a game, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, and over a steal a game. And so, there's so many ways that a team like Katy Jordan can beat you, and this is one of them. I mean, they have a very young team that is very capable of probably putting over 30 wins this year. And Fadika doesn't have to be the leading guy every game, and that's the way this team plays. But he came out this weekend, and like you said, this is something that we paid attention to when they tagged us in it, because just a couple weeks ago when I saw Katy Jordan, it was more of some other guys that were on the team. But he can put up a lot of points very quickly. Obviously, triple double is something to be very proud of in the sense of an individual accomplishment, and then winning MVP. So congratulations to him. But he's definitely somebody to continue to watch throughout the season and through the next couple of years.
Really good selection there, Blue. To kind of tag on what you just talked about with his ability to be able to do multiple things. I saw that in practice. when I went to go watch him a couple of weeks ago and was able to kind of stop by and talk to Coach Jones a little bit, and he was able to kind of let me just watch what they were doing. He practices that way, and I mean, even when he's fatigued and tired, he's getting after it. So the numbers that he's putting up right now is not surprising at all. I mean, he's doing those very same things in a very competitive practice setting as well.
Yeah, I mean, really high praise from the kid for the kid. I'll finish the category with let's talk about Burke Burnett beating Kennedale. Have you seen the numbers that they're putting up with Aiden White with Kingston Gold right now, where they're both going for 25 to 30 a game? It feels like. I mean, two dudes that are just bucket getters at the 4A level, making some noise. So shout out to those guys. Hope to catch a game live here pretty soon. All right, last thing. Where are we going this weekend? What's the plan? Tim, what gyms are you going to be in the final tournament weekend before the holiday break?
It starts tonight for me. We talked a little bit about it a while ago, and so I got to get close eyes up on it. 26-5A kicks off tonight with Wagner and New Braunfels, and so I have to get my eyes on that one just to kind of see, because actually New Braunfels has some new talent that's infused in, some transfers that come in that I'm interested in seeing how they're going to mesh into this district. Coach Bronner does a really good job over there getting those guys ready in New Braunfels. He's a formidable opponent for everybody, whenever they come out. And then I saw Wagner really, really kind of come together in certain phases this weekend. They were able to kind of squeak out, some tough wins. They had some tough losses as well, but the wins that they came through, you could start to see the team that we thought that they could probably be start to kind of show up a little bit. So it'll be interesting in that matchup. And then this weekend, the Diamondbacker is always a pretty quality event that Reagan High School hosts here. So I'll be able to go over there on Friday, as well as seeing some of the Northeast Northside tournament this weekend.
Blue, where are you headed?
Yeah, going to the Pflugerville ISD tournament. Timmons and I will cover basically all of it in day one. So on Thursday we'll be there. I'll drive down to San Antonio, watch the quarters of the Northeast Northside ISD tournament. Tim will be the cleanup man there, like he said. He'll go see what I didn't, and then Saturday is always a kind of a little bit of a toss up as I drive back into Dallas, and there's a couple. It's kind of a low end, lower volume of tournaments, it seems, this week, and so we'll see what we can catch on Saturday.
Yeah, and just for all of our viewers who are concerned, Timmons is back from Cabo. He will be at Pflugerville. He's going over to hang with me at Cy Hoops on Fridays. You want to check out the Third Ward Jamboree in Houston. So he survived that trip, and I'll be at Cy Hoops with him on Friday, and I'll also be there Thursday night to check out some more matchups. May pop into Coppell on Saturday. We'll see what the weekend holds. But as always, thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Gaso Linden, Gaso Blue, Gaso Tim. Always a pleasure, and we will see you next time.